The first function that media plays is the signaling function. In performing this function, the media is alerting the public to important developments as soon as possible after they happen. This function is performed largely by traditional media such as wire services like the AP, daily newspapers, and television networks. In this function, the media has the power to focus the public's attention on a particular issue, known as agenda setting. A great quote to help you kind of figure out, well, what is agenda setting and what does the signaling function look like is, the press may not be successful much of the time telling people what to think, but it is stunningly successful in telling them what to think about. And if we start to think about this a little bit, the national media, the traditional media, is picking and selecting the stories that are of most importance and most current, and those are helping us to shape our discussions and the various issues in society that we are dealing with today. The second function that media performs is called the common carrier function. In the common carrier function, the press serves as a conduit through which political leaders communicate with the public. Political leaders leverage news coverage if they are to get the public's attention and support on a particular issue or topic of interest. If we take a look at it, whenever a media member is being interviewed or has time on a show, they are taking advantage of this common carrier function. But two things prevent political leaders from dominating political news. First and foremost, journalists are largely neutral. For the most part, journalists often only present positions of leaders from both parties, so as preventing one side from controlling the entire message or story. So we have Marco Rubio and Ben Carson up there. Rather than just giving them the opportunity to talk, obviously they may also try to have a democratic or a opposing viewpoint perspective on there. In addition, the second thing that prevents political leaders from dominating the news is that although politicians may originate a story with their words or actions, they do not monopolize the news. For the most part, we're looking at a politician's soundbite or what they said about a particular issue. They do not have the end-all be-all to control the message. It is largely up to the news to figure out how they are going to frame the issue and talk about the issue. Think about what we just talked about with a soundbite. In the 1960s, a political soundbite from a politician could last as long as 40 seconds. Today, when we watch the debate tonight, for example, most soundbites capturing the debate is probably going to be less than 10 seconds. So, although the common carrier feature is a great conduit for politicians to broadcast their message, they are not able to control the message that is sent out to the public. The third function is the watchdog function. In the watchdog function, the American press assumes responsibility for exposing incompetent, hypocritical, and corrupt officials. In the watchdog function, the press stands ready to expose officials who violate accepted legal, ethical, or performance standards. Sometimes in performing this function, the media is referred to as the fourth estate or the fourth branch of government because they are acting as a check on the branches of government. Ever since the Watergate scandal of the 1970s, the press has been quick to pounce on any sign of public wrongdoing. Most recently, with the advent of the internet, citizens acting in the role of journalists have been expanded upon the media's watchdog capabilities, an idea sometimes referred to as citizen journalism. The final function that media plays is the partisan function. In the partisan function, the media acts as an advocate for a particular viewpoint or interest that has been traditionally the responsibility of political leaders, institutions, and organizations. Today, the news media, particularly the new media, also functions in this capacity. But it hasn't always been the case. If we look at major news outlets like ABC, CBS, and NBC, for the most part, these outlets are mostly neutral. Even scholarly research has debunked the idea that, for the most part, this traditional media does not have a liberal bias. Instead, what we have seen is that with the emergence of things like Vietnam, Watergate, and other political scandals, is the emergence of a negative bias. But that does not mean that there are not parts of the media that do not perform this function. We can look at magazines like Breitbart and Mother Jones, cable news shows like Fox News and MSNBC, who very much are playing into this partisan function, providing this viewpoint to their viewers of what is going on.